of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gina, if we could have a roll call, please.
Mr. Allen, Ms. Caskey, Ms. Godovic, Ms. Martorella, Mr. Panza,
Here.
Ms. Schwartz, Mr. Ray,
Here.
Mayor Shane.
Present. Okay, so tonight, special meeting workshop, we're gonna have a presentation by the Birdtown Committee. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, so we're gonna have you guys come down because we're bringing the screen down.
Popcorn.
Good to see you. Give me 1 minute. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Elisa Kansky. I am part of the Birdtown Committee. I am a resident of Green Tree, proud member of the Garden Club, a native gardener, and I want to thank the other members of the committee before they introduce themselves for all of their time and effort the last 2 months, and just all of the work they've put in. I truly appreciate it. So, one of you, let's go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eleni. I've lived in Green Tree for about 3 years now. I actually have a degree in environmental studies with an ecology focus, and I'm an avid native gardener, and I'd like to thank a steward of the land. That's me.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Matt Swartzfigger. I'm also a resident of Green Tree. Most folks call me MK, though you'll hear me called that way. I've lived in Green Tree for about 5 years, and I've been a lifelong outdoorsman and environmentalist, and I'm very excited to, and without any professional background, really be sort of a trail advisor and open space advisor to this committee. So I'm very excited that you're all here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ryan Taylor. I am a Green Tree resident for 2 years now. I married a Green Tree girl, so I'm here for the long haul. I am a civil engineer by trade, and when I'm not working or with my family, I'm usually running on trails. So I have a deep interest on how we develop and maintain our trail infrastructure around here and how that dovetails in with Birdtown's goals.
Thank you again, all three of you. There is a seat on the environmental committee in Green Tree. It could be you. So if you have any interest, please let us know, and we can talk more about that. So when we talk about what is Birdtown, we are a bird town in Pennsylvania, which is exciting. And I just want us to think about one thing when we're discussing topics related to environmental and Birdtown, and that is everything we're presenting tonight is information that we have learned about Green Tree through conversations, through history of Green Tree. And when it comes to environment, everything is connected. So every issue that comes up is connected to another issue that comes up, and same thing with solutions. So as we talk about the things that we want to do, they're all interconnected. I just think that's a really important thing to remember whenever we're addressing problems in the community. Birdtown, even though it is called Birdtown, has many facets to it. So I'm going to show you real quick the website, the Birdtown PA webpage that we are now a part of. And Green Tree is on this website. You can go here and to Birdtowns, and that has us on it. So when a municipality becomes a bird town, they fill out an application There are specific 5 strategy areas to focus their efforts and attention, and levels as you move up in the program and accomplish different tasks. So as you can see, it involves municipal action, school district, community, advocacy organizations, it's multifaceted in Bird Town. So it's not just about birds, but it's about the whole community and everyone in it, which is wonderful. If you come down, you can see we are going to be in this area in Allegheny County. So that's us. And when you click on that, that will take you to the borough page, which is up now. We have a Birdtown page. This is an interesting place where you will be able to find resources and news and links that we will be updating regularly. So that's now on there. Birdtown, PA is also part of Bird City Network, which is many countries, which is actually pretty exciting, and states. Birdtown, Pennsylvania is one of those states. And we will have a listing on Bird City Network that talks about it. This is our main page right now. We haven't done it yet, but it will talk about Green Tree. It can talk about things to do in Green Tree, like our nature center. We can put events on here that we have, workshops, or anything that we have. We can also put businesses on here, business listings. So it's a great place to advertise like the beauty and all the things that Green Tree has going for it. So we'll be working on this coming up. So to qualify, when I did the application, I basically pulled together everything the Green Tree community was already doing, and we chose a few things that we thought we could accomplish in the first year, and we wrote all of that to Birdtown, and they were very complimentary of all the work that our committees and organizations already do. Within the first 2 months, we've already accomplished everything in the black font, which is fantastic. All of these things will go towards our next level, which we probably have already met, like the requirements for the next level, which is wonderful. Everything is weighted, so it has points assigned to it, and that determines, how heavily that project is. Things like creating bird habitat or planting natives or doing policy, those things are weighted more heavily, just because they make such a big impact in the community long term. This is the sheet that we use to track what we do as a committee. So this is something that we all have access to. So that is how we will complete our next application in January to move up in a level. If the community does anything that would fall into this, please let us know. I try to keep track of everything, but sometimes I miss it. And that's why Birdtown is all of us, because anything you do can contribute to the community doing better. Okay, we can probably go back to the slideshow.
Oh, can I ask a question? Like, so they make a mosquito bucket program with the library, you took note of that?
Yes.
That would be part of it.
Yes, so the library programs count, the garden club presentations and events, those sort of things, those all count. Which is great. Everything from all the committees and organizations will contribute. For example, I am a backyard certified habitat. I got that a couple months ago, and that will contribute to the borough itself. So something I did as an individual in my own yard will add to the points.
Lisa, do you plan on putting this scorecard on the website so that community can see and maybe that they do something to contribute to the goal?
Yes, so the goal worksheet is public. I'll put the link on our Birdtown website. And it's like 7 pages, so I didn't want to print it tonight. But yes, everyone has access to it. And if you see something on there and you want to go do that, please, we will support you and let us know, and anything. And also, if there's something that's not on there, but you think it's applicable, Audubon said, go do it, and we will put it into a category. If it has something to do with conservation, habitat, natives, birds, any of that, they'll work with us. Okay.
Can you talk about how Audubon and Birdtown?
Yes, so Birdtown is a compilation of many organizations. They wanted this program to be sustainable. So when it was formed, and the whole history of it is on their website, if you go to Birdtown, PA. But when they formed, they had all of these organizations come together and commit to Birdtown, Pennsylvania. And then Birdtown, Pennsylvania committed to Bird City Network. This way, if one of those organizations drops off for some reason in the future, the other organizations are there to sustain it. So this is meant to be long-lasting, to help municipalities so that we don't lose that program anytime in the future. It also allows us to get more funding and resources from all of these different organizations. We directly work with the Audubon as a resource. Nick Stallman, who is here, is a huge source of information and help. So they've been directly helping us.
So is Birdtown sit under Audubon? Is it like,
It's under the Audubon Council.
okay, so Audubon is the.
Yeah.
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 It's Audubon Council has formed Birdtown, PA. Southwest Audubon is part of that. So there's it's.
Yeah, the council is who provided the grant funding for the program to be established in the first place as a national program. And then what's happened since then is that local organizations like Nick he wears two hats. He wears an Audubon hat and he also wears a Birdtown hat, and they're related in an organizational fashion, but only because he's essentially working for an affiliated chapter of the Audubon Society here that is affiliated with the headquarters near Philadelphia.
And Bird City Network is, they do a lot of migration tracking and things. So that's why there's multiple countries involved. So that we can have resources when you talk about, monarchs and birds and things like that. Okay. So we're going to talk about projects that we have worked on and kind of inform the community and council of what we've learned. And then give us your ideas when we're done with this. One of the things I want to highlight is we did receive a $1,000 mini grant from the Pittsburgh Foundation through Birdtown, PA. We're planning to do, if everyone agrees, a whitetail deer workshop in the borough for all community members coexisting with whitetail deer, because we think that's an important issue right now in our community. We're going to use some of that money for that, but then we still have more left to determine what we want to do with it. We also are applying for an additional $1,000 from the DCNR through Birdtown, PA for a grant to do with that money. We are also receiving a chimney swift tower from the Department of Wildlife in Pennsylvania. Greg and I went and toured the nature center and found a great spot for it. They're doing a program where it's typically $1,000 to get one installed in your community, but we are getting one. All we have to do is the installation basically, but we'll get all the materials for free. This will be a great attraction and also a educational opportunity for the nature center. And I think it's a nice addition to what we're trying to do there.
What location did you pick?
It's when you walk down to the clearing area where that picnic table is on the right, kind of to the back a little bit, because it has to be level. And it has to be in the clearing for the birds to come to it.
I think the trail coming off of there.
Yes, it's the entrance of the Orange Trail.
Yeah. One side.
Is it the clearing on the right?
Yeah, when you come,
Left trail, right trail.
right trail.
At that here.
Yep. They also eat a lot of bugs, which is great. It's a natural pesticide if you have chimney swift. And in January, we will submit our renewal application for that process. And then I added on here your ideas. These are some of the organizations we've worked with and collaborated with in just the first 2 months. I want to give a huge thank you to everyone that has given your time to move this forward. Green Tree Library, Green Tree Garden Club, Green Tree Rotary, anyone and any individual who has participated, we appreciate you. We've also worked with some of our nearby communities who are also bird towns, which has been really nice. For forum and outreach, we want to know from you, how do community members want to communicate with Birdtown? We will have some articles in the newsletter. We've created a Facebook forum page where you can go for some resources, and the borough website, which I showed you. We'll talk about the native seed library at the library, and then also educational signage. But if you have any other ideas later on, please share with us how you want to get information from Birdtown. Okay, so we're going to go into our first project. And this is the municipal garden and library is where this project will take place. This project, it will be applied to our second grant that we applied for, the $1,000, and it all ties together. So Lainey's gonna start that.
Well, first I'm gonna start with native plants. Why do they matter? So the problem, development and urban sprawl has reduced native wildlife habitat, natural wildlife habitat. The US has actually lost 150 million acres of habitat and farmland, and our lawns actually cover over 40 million acres, and lawns are basically low value monocultures, low wildlife value monocultures. And so them covering 40 million acres over the US is a big deal. But why do native plants work? They have evolved with local insects, birds, and animals over thousands, sometimes even millions of years. For example, native oak trees support 500 plus caterpillar species. And I love this fact. Chickadees actually need 6,000 caterpillars to raise one brood, which is crazy. It's a lot of caterpillars. So the benefits of native plants is they're typically lower maintenance and less watering because, again, they've evolved with our natural landscape, our natural habitat. They're used to our rain cycles, our drought cycles, our weather patterns, the hot summers, the cold winters, etc. And they typically require less pesticide and fertilizer use as well. And again, they help support all of the native wildlife. So birds, bees, butterflies, bats, all of them. I do want to caveat some of the native plants that you will find in the local nurseries or sometimes even seeds will be native cultivars. Sometimes they're called nativars. And so they can either be totally fine and great, but sometimes they can actually be bred so much that it has zero wildlife value. For example, some native plants can be bred to have like a double flower, which are beautiful. We love those big, beautiful double flowers. But the problem with those is the pollinators, like the butterflies and the bees, can't get into that flower to pollinate the plant. They can't get that pollen, they can't get that nectar. But on the flip side, there are some cultivars out there that are bred for just height differentials. So for example, what comes to mind is Joe Pye weed, which is this very tall, taller than me, native prairie plant. And a lot of times what you'll see is like a dwarf Joe Pye weed. So it's a lot more manageable if you want to plant that in your garden. And all it's bred for is just for it to be shorter. So the wildlife can still feed from the flowers, feed from the leaves, etc. So I just wanted to kind of caveat that. So yeah.
So this project that we're going to be doing is going to be focusing on natives. This is our municipal garden. Thank you to our garden club who cares for this space. It's such a beautiful space. This area, about 2 years ago, they started planting native flowers in this space. And we recently spoke about really enhancing this area with natives. So making this is in the back, kind of by the lending library. This space and then this space here is behind that, filling that with a lot more natives so that we have a really nice demonstration garden. These are some of the things that are already in that space. They're actually, some of those were donated from one of the members of the garden club, which we greatly appreciate. And the goal is to also put some signage up there, educational signage about topics that we choose. So for example, the life cycle of a butterfly, or why you leave the leaves over the fall and winter. What does that do? So it's an educational opportunity, and using that space for workshops as well. So we can get out into nature and people can actually see what these natives look like. But that's not all. So these are some examples of some signs that other communities have done. We get to design our own signs, which is pretty neat. This is a area in our library where we are going to have a native seed library, just super exciting. Free seeds for community members of natives. And those seeds originally will come from the grant that we get, but then over time we can source those seeds from the native garden in the municipal garden, which is wonderful. It's sustainable. We can use it year after year. We also can offer workshops on how to overwinter native seeds, because that's a really important part of most of their life cycle. And we'll have resources about native gardening and pollinators. There'll be some tools to borrow, and also some ideas on citizen science projects, which is really fun, where you report out to scientists what's happening in your community with the pollinators. So this will come full circle. The Native Seed Library, you can go there, get some seeds for your house, or you can go over to the native garden and look at what's there and say, oh, I like that one, and I'm going to go get that seed and I'm going to plant it in my yard. So it will impact many spaces in Green Tree. The last part of it will be this space, which is the left of the native garden. That is not being utilized for anything but grass at this time, but we would love to make it into a children's garden area. And what we would like to do there is really focus on the senses, where kids can go and touch dirt and smell flowers and interact with nature and their environment. These are some examples of things that we would put in there. And then also, again, having them utilize the Native Seed Library. So the whole project in itself is self-sustaining, long-term, and it benefits everyone in the community. We can also do story times in there, which would be nice. Okay, so that's our first project. The second area of the community we're going to talk about is the Nature Center and the Glencoe Trail / Whiskey Run Stream. For purposes of this presentation, we've lumped them all together. And when we present on this, there are 4 parts of this project. So we'll start with infrastructure. So when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about the stairs inside the nature center, bridges, how we get from place to place, and how we learn about our area. With that is our trail system, and how we have we're going to present a greenway for Green Tree, and how our green spaces connect. We also have our invasive management, and these are some topics that we're going to discuss. And with invasive management, we talk about native and habitat restoration, because if you take something out, you have to put something else in its place. So I'm going to let you guys take it away from there.
All right, so yeah, what you see on the screen here now is a very old map of the existing trail network, or at least as the trail network existed a number of years ago, before some of it has been grown back in. The map on the left was created by a local Penn State or Pitt, perhaps, environmentalist who was hosting some orienteering classes in the Green Tree Nature Center back in the day. And it's as old and as dated as that sounds like. So it's there's not a lot of value that we can offer on that map. And so one of the things we want to do is sort of update and make it clearer what is available. And so this is a more recent Green Tree Nature Center map that is a much better tool, at least for conceptualizing what trails exist already in the Nature Center. What this doesn't particularly convey is two facts. So the first is that we have a really outstanding piece of land there that the borough is a steward of. We are all extraordinarily appreciative for that is in some ways underdeveloped, an opportunity for a lot more trail expansion, a lot more utilization, a lot more safety features, a lot more navigation features. There's a lot of thinking that can go into the Green Tree Nature Center and how it can be really the crown jewel of the South Hills trail opportunities and nature opportunities. So that's what's envisioned here a little bit. The other thing that this doesn't convey is how the heck do you get anywhere? I mean, this is not particularly useful yet on where to go and how to get around in the nature center. So I joke that my mother, who's from out of town, visited and said I'm gonna go hiking in the nature center, and she called me 3 hours later saying I can't get out of here because it's tricky. Yeah, and so you know, many of the things that we want to do is improve trail access throughout the whole South Hills region, but starting right here in our backyard in the nature center. And so that leads me to this, which is we tricked you all into thinking this was going to be about butterflies, and it's actually about zoning. But so I am secretly passionate about land use and urban development, and so this is something that we have started to think about inside the committee, which is a proposal to the borough and perhaps to interborough intergovernmental organizations on how to create a integrated trail system and greenway plan. And so you can see that in the just in the south there, it's difficult to see from this distance, but you're down here in the south of the map. This is our Green Tree Nature Center, and some of the existing trails are outlined here. There's also a number of trail extensions that have been plotted out here that would connect to Glencoe Road, and also that would connect the Whiskey Run trail system, which we plan to propose some more developments on. They would connect those up to the Park Edge Greenway, which would be proposed, and also the Woodbridge Greenway, which would be proposed. These greenways, these are, in terms of urban development, these are suggestions on ways to solve several problems all at once. And one of them is traffic management. There's been a lot of talk in the borough on many of these roadways about how can we handle higher volumes of traffic through traffic, particularly how do we slow down traffic, how do we make sure that those neighborhoods stay safe. Things like speed bumps have been discussed. Some more traditional forms of speed control have been discussed. But these greenways, one of the things they could do is, as you see on there, they can be designated bicycle boulevards or winners, which is a crazy Dutch name. Look it up. Sorry, it's a term for basically a walking road that has mixed use traffic. They'll also have, they can have all kinds of traffic calming features, such as using parking as a way to create sort of a zigzag pattern that naturally slows traffic, or having more sustainable plantings along the roadways. In terms of residential partnerships, the borough could, under this plan, under a long-term plan here, cooperate with neighbors along these streets to help plant and maintain the right kinds of trees and the right kinds of growth along the roadways that won't add as much burden to the system. They'll have cooling features, and they'll also create a phenomenon called compression, which tends to slow traffic. So these features, traffic management features, would exist along some of those proposed greenways, and those greenways would also come with all kinds of navigation aids and connecting features that would make it easier for folks in the community to take advantage of all of the fantastic resources that the South Hills have to offer. So connections to Carnegie Park, connections to Crafton's trail system, connections to Mount Lebanon's many lovely parks, and even possibly a connection through Carnegie to the newly expanding Panhandle Trail, which runs which will run from Carnegie to the West Virginia border, and also connects to the Montour Trail, which runs north all the way to the Ohio River and south essentially to Washington, DC. So there's many opportunities to put Green Tree on the map in a literal sense. And they start with us thinking big about what, a boring subject like land use and zoning. So I'm excited to talk about that more with you all as we get into it.
Right. Oh, can I say one thing?
We did talk to, we have a grant, outstanding grant with the DCNR right now. We also talked to them and we talked to the Pennsylvania Environmental Council's trail advisor. They're happy to help us in any way they can. And this is the greenway systems is what they're looking for right now with big projects. They want people to connect green spaces in communities so people have access to all of that space. This is their bread and butter right now. So we're right on point with what they want.
Okay, yeah, and thinking about greenways and how we link these different trail network systems, we also have to focus on, what we have right now and how to make it better and more accessible to folks. So this slide talks about some of our existing infrastructure and what the Bird Town Committee is looking at putting resources to. And the first item would be to take care of items in disrepair. So for example, we have at the Green Tree Nature Center, the Red Trail steps. Has anyone seen the Red Trail steps lately? But if you haven't, once you get in there by the swings, you look down a steep hill and there's these steps that are probably, upwards of 50 years old or so. I know I have family and friends that have seen the steps and just have said no and don't have any interest in going forward. So this is one project in my mind that needs immediate addressing, and we looked at replacing some of these older timbers with box steps. About what that would cost. We think it's about $2,500 and 124 volunteer hours, which is substantial. But with group of people thinking about and using this area, the idea is to get more people onto the trails so that they care about what happens and maybe want to play a part in improving them. Other things that we would want to repair broken benches, improve stream crossings, just so more folks can come out and get through the trails in a way that's not going to be totally epic. Sometimes that's fun, but if you're just trying to get something in before bedtime. And then, so those are like the big ticket items that are kind of one-offs, but ongoing routine items would be, regular trail corridor cleaning, the invasive removals, native plantings that Alani and Elisa will talk about a little bit more. But with that is the want and need and things we're already doing, establishing trail work days. There's already been a couple through Birdtown where we've gone and cleared trail corridors from invasive species and replanted natives. But really to solidify some groups and then give life to work lists that if outside groups, I think of Boy Scouts or senior projects or different clubs around the area might want to contribute in a way. There's this kind of database that they can go to. It's hey, we would like to do that project at the nature center. So yeah.
The picture on the right is just an example of what the repair would look like.
What a typical box step repair would look like. There's actually, if you're out in Mount Lebanon, at the Rob Hollow trail, it's about 1.5 mile trail that runs between Rob Hollow and the Mount Lebo Public Works building. There's a really good example, a really nice set of box steps. Hoping to network with those folks and see how they build that thing. So yeah, to implement that, yeah.
In terms of the ongoing initiatives, you have have you addressed or thought about the goodwill?
Yeah, that's coming next.
That's coming up. Yeah.
It's coming up. Next slide, please.
Okay.
Okay, future infrastructure. So taking care of what we already have and then kind of adding to that to make, a more cohesive greenway. So new trails, connections and access points. We're thinking about the Green Tree Nature Center connection down to the Glencoe Road and also the Whiskey Hollow. That would make a nice long, connector up through up through the nature center, and then also there's the historical marker that I'm sure most people are very familiar with off of Green Tree Road. I know when I first moved here, I was like, oh, the nature center's right there, and like you go there, it's like, where is it? So you have to go down the road down Crestmont, but yeah, so part of what we're thinking is a connector actually at that point, you know, folks on Green Tree Road that are driving by is like, oh, there's a trail there, and you know, that's an invitation to come check out our facilities. With that, we'd also like, there's been talk about mappings, maps and signage to, you know, to make your trip to these facilities more, I guess, effective or fun, and like I said, less epic. And part of that will be educational signage in terms of like identifying certain features that are either pointing out a sustainable practice or a native species, or you know, something that's been corrected through the years. Yeah, and all of this, you know, repair, maintenance, and additions to the infrastructure and will strengthen these proposals for greenways and putting Green Tree on the map in terms of what MK talked about.
Going back to the previous slide with those.
Yeah.
I see that as a safety issue, obviously.
Mhm.
That's something their public works department could probably take care of, like, in a couple of days, Mr. Wilson. Just something that we should probably think about, because you could easily break an ankle.
Oh, yeah.
Reverse something.
For sure, yeah, and it's hard to see, but there's actually like steps that are now gone, and there's just rebar.
Yeah.
Just hanging out there, so it's no good.
And also the steps going up between the left trail. Like the steps going
Yeah.
down that little thing.
There's like 3 steps, would you say, that need reinforced? Because you can easily,
Yeah, they're probably all, you know,
yeah.
installed around the same time.
Just
so.
a related thought, though, that's worth mentioning in this kind of group is that, you know, steps, particularly in our area, are kind of a non-ideal way to solve these problems too. But they're high maintenance, and they tend to cause some other water erosion problems. Like we see, it's good that we've got sort of an expert who can contribute on this, but I think one of our recommendations might be to reduce the number of stair sets by expanding new trails. That would be less impactful in terms of a water erosion sense, and also much easier on a maintenance level.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's can we go back to, give me a map. Yeah, let's do this one. So I guess in terms of new trail connections that are built kind of with sustainability in mind, this yellow trail here, I think what would be great in my mind, and the blue trail is very steep, outward sloping. It's great if you're trying, I don't know, I'm typically training for some type of run, so if I want to get like a nice hill run in, that's great. But like for, I don't know, if I'm taking my 3-year-old to go hiking, I don't necessarily want to go down there. So like a meandering kind of connector down to the bottom that would give folks like an easier way up and down. Yeah, would I think fulfill that kind of or remove the idea of stairs. I think the red trail goes up, it's the kind of a spine in the topography where that is kind of the steepest way up the hill, and it's kind of traditionally how trails have been built in Western Pennsylvania. But in that case, like the stairs are kind of unavoidable. So.
Can I add 2 things? One, the stairs on the ones that Ryan specifically mentioned, we did see over fall and winter, would you say, some water erosion coming from that section that's pretty significant. So like large areas of sitting water and rushing down those stairs. So if we do repair the stairs, I think we should consider the water flow there to make sure that we're not just building to destroy, like to have a problem in a few years.
Yeah, and part of that $2,500 included 4 or 5 water bars before and after the stairs to divert, you know, runoff, so that we're not replacing and having to maintain these stairs, you know, all the time. Water bars, they are a erosion control feature that requires maintenance, and it's you know, not they're gonna require maintenance, but they will, you know, save the larger infrastructure. So We have thought about that. Who's up?
Let's see. Oh,
Is it me?
um. There's one thing I wanted to mention. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So the borough we have a report from Hollow Oak Land Trust that was written pre-COVID era with the nature center with some trail suggestions and things like that. So we have used those reports in forming these recommendations and things, but those will also inform us as we make decisions. And also talking to the DCNR, they are happy to look at our trail mappings and everything else, like the Pennsylvania Environmental Committee and the urban forester, which we'll talk about with invasive management. So part of being a bird town is that we don't have to make all these decisions on our own. We have experts we can go to and ask for suggestions and advice to do best practice. This is a really great part of that. Elaine.
All right, yeah, speaking of invasives, we did have a meeting with an urban forester and we met with a consultant from Arc Wild about the invasives in the nature center and on the Glencoe Trail or Whiskey Hollow Trail. I call it the Glencoe Trail. So that is kind of in process. We are going to get an official report, an official management plan from Arc Wild. That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal. That's what we're working towards. So we have a proposal from him right now. So we're working on that. Some other projects we're working on around the Glencoe Trail, Whiskey Hollow Trail area. They are working on a stream restoration down there. So we want to kind of clarify that scope. I feel like the community, definitely the community on Glencoe, I live on Glencoe, don't really know what's going on there. And I love that we're doing some stream restoration, and I would love to be able to kind of inform the community as to what's going on, how long it's going to take, why they're digging, etc. So some workshops, some mailers, maybe even some signage on Glencoe Road, especially if it's going to take another couple of years. Just informing the community. I think it really puts Green Tree in a really good light too. So a lot of people walk up and down Glencoe Trail or Glencoe Road to get to that trail. So they know what's going on. So that's something that we are working towards. We've talked extensively about this, but the trail system connection. So connecting the Whiskey Hollow Trail to Carnegie, to the Nature Center and beyond. We have notified the electric company about some low-hanging electrical wires that are along that trail. There's quite a few of those. So that's in the works as well. There are two fairly large asphalt piles along the trail that are, quite frankly, just kind of an eyesore. So we are working to use that, what's it called, millings? Is that what it is? Yeah, use those millings to do some trail restoration on the Whiskey Hollow Trail. There's some water damage on that trail, and then also in the nature center as well. And then that way we'll get rid of those piles, make the trail nice and clean. There's some down and leaning trees that we want to work on. Our long-term plan is to make that trail a bird habitat. That's kind of connected to the stream restoration. We want to just kind of really just get a good grasp on what's going on there. So that we know if like the water is clean enough to really be able to have a good bird habitat there. So we want to put some bird houses eventually, once that stream restoration project is finished, and some signage. So similar to the nature center sign, just kind of welcome to Whiskey Hollow Trail. Here are some of the native plants that you'll see along this trail. Here are some of the invasive plants you'll see along this trail. Here's what we're doing about the invasive plants. Here's where the trail will take you, etc., etc. And maybe even a trash can at the entrance of the trail. So, because I walk that trail every day pretty much, and I'm constantly picking up trash on that trail. So having a little trash can right at the entrance, I think would be really good to just keep it clean.
I think just clarity's sake, it's my understanding those aren't electrical wires, they're communication wires.
Okay.
Not to freak anybody out.
Oh, good.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, thank you.
And now people know, so that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Period current, just not a big.
Yeah.
And. Do you have anything else? Okay, so let's go to the invasive management piece. So thank you to the borough we had some poison hemlock in June, which is everywhere in Pennsylvania. It is not unique to Green Tree. You'll probably find it in your own yard. But it was starting to sprout near the swing set area, and we wanted to get that taken care of because if there's a child who puts their hands in their mouth, it could become a problem. So they cleared it immediately. It was great. At that time, the company Archwild came and they assessed the nature area and the Glencoe Trail. Their role is basically to look at forested areas in municipalities. They want to work with the smaller communities and help them manage those forested areas better. So the DCNR, what we learned, the DCNR isn't really interested in our nature center that much. It's not over 100 acres. So some of that money is not going to come from that. But we also it's not urban because we don't have a road that goes through it. We don't have anything, it's not a residential road per se. It is a forested area. So we are unique in that we don't really qualify for either one. But they want to help us with that. And we think so. Archwild, the estimate for the report for invasive management for that whole area is $2,000. And what that would do is allow us to come up with a plan on how we can grid this area and what we need to put borough effort into. For example, public works going and doing what they need to do. Community effort, like when we got 20, 30 people and did the trail cleanup. And where we need to really call in reinforcements from professionals, because there's some dense invasives in there that we will not be able to clear without some help. But the thought is, we could pay a land trust company to come in and take care of that center for us at a higher price tag, or we could get this report and kind of do this ourselves. And where we got that idea is Mount Lebanon Conservancy does this with their parks, and we shadowed them and we went with them and they pick pieces each year to address. And I think that's really great because the community gets involved. They take care of their parks, and it's year after year after year we're working on those areas. So you can prioritize what's important to us. So that was really great. And there's also so much information that we've been given as far as, so the oak wilt, there's nothing we can do. And it's across Pennsylvania right now. So when we found out about it, it was when it was really starting. Oak wilt is caused by like a beetle that goes into the oak tree and basically starts to kill it from the inside. But then it creates this stuff that goes through the root system of the oaks. And it is damaging oaks all across the state. And they basically said, it's not worth putting those resources into to stop it because you probably won't. But what you can... mostly white oaks are okay.
Yeah.
Okay, white oaks are okay. It's the other oaks that are the problem. But what he did say is instead of putting your resources into that, put it into planting new trees so that when these trees start to go, you have a forest canopy coming through and you haven't wasted time on the other thing, which is kind of good because the oak wilt remedies were really tough. It was a lot. So we have a list of trees that were recommended to us by DCNR, and also talking about whether or not we need to get an herbicide permit. Somebody permitted an herbicide, and Greg has a lot of information on that whole process, because we probably will need to do treatments on certain invasives, and we need a certified herbicide applicator for that. The report we got from Archwild did point out that we have really good bones in the nature center. So we have some really great invasives like spicebush and natives that are really great, and and the oaks and everything, we want to keep those.
But we do have a lot of invasives that have just taken over. And there's also the vining, if you go in there. One of the vines is a native grapevine. But when a native becomes out of control, it becomes aggressive and it needs controlled. So some of those trees are being pulled down by a native, but we need to control that native. And that's something simple. We can go in, cut it at the base, free the trees, and voila. So the approach that we've taken with managing all of this is, again, the 4 areas, and then within each area prioritize and figure out where we want to go next. And I think that's a community conversation.
I think one of the options you said was, bring in like a land trust.
Mhm.
And you didn't really put a price tag on it, but what ballpark you got it?
I was waiting to see if we wanted to get an estimate for that, because it really depends on what we want them to do. They'll come in and do everything we've stated tonight. If the report itself for just invasive management is 2,000, I'd imagine that number is going to be pretty high, but we can get an estimate for it. They'll come in and redo our trail system, do anything we want. We just,
It'd just be nice to know, like, what are all the different options?
Yeah. I do think we get that estimate from them because they were in there. And we find out how much that would all cost, because there might be some areas where we want them to, do that. Archwild will also do some of that too, especially with the invasives. That's kind of their specialty. So I think this is a longer process than tonight. We really need to look at all of our options and figure out where we want to go.
Question.
Yeah.
Back up, so when you mentioned about planting more trees as an alternative, so explain to me, so those bugs don't go after the younger trees, or is that a different?
It's the species of tree.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I thought, okay, so that's the difference.
Yeah, and he gave us some recommended specific trees to plant so that we can avoid further diseases.
They're impervious to those issues.
Yes, and other issues like fungus and things that they have found. Yeah.
I just wanted to say the good news is like we were saying is that it's just red oaks. It's typically not white oaks, so it's not going to kill all of our oaks. But eventually we're probably looking at a loss of our red oaks. But we'll at least still have some oaks, and that will produce acorns for the wildlife and things like that. So.
Did they estimate how many red oaks? Like, it looks like it's a grove, probably does it right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many.
Will lose.
Yeah.
It goes through the root system to every tree it can.
We'll lose them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, so, but is it like the majority of the trees in the nature center red oak? Like, what's?
No.
It's small.
It's a smaller percentage of those particular trees. Like it's not
It's a variety of trees in the
Yeah.
nature center. I'm not exactly sure what percentage red oak, but
and that's something the report could show us
Yeah.
is what trees do we have. And we can also use that to get other trees. We can become a tree city and we can get trees added onto that. And there's a whole
I'm wondering, because when Hollow Oak was in there, they said it's near impossible, like you said, to deal with it because it's not accessible. But if there's an area of red oaks that are more accessible, like near the entrance, is there something we could practically do? He
said it's not worth it. He said it's at this point in Pennsylvania, it's so bad. This particular oak wilt is, and they don't have a good remedy. Like it would be every year we'd be trying to protect those trees. And he said that it just wouldn't be worth putting our resources into that.
I remember the one solution they had was, like dig trenches around.
Yeah.
That put steel plate in.
yeah.
He said it's not worth it. Mm-mm. And this is the urban forester from DCNR, and he said he has all the way out to like Ligonier is his, and he said it's just everywhere. So
And those trees would likely be from the 70s or 80s when they started growing, because this had happened before to the red oaks prior to that. And the really solution at that time was the Forestry Service went out and collected red oak acorn and preserved them and then started replanting. But they had to wait for that to participate in the system, unfortunately, but there are white oaks. That can be planted in the interim that are more immune to that.
They
And
also,
other high values.
yeah, they also forested the red, they logged the red oaks at that time too, so that's something, that's another possibility if you wanted to try to speed up the process, but as I said, it's so ubiquitous right now that it would be valuable, which I don't think they're speeding it up either.
Yeah, and it's, the goal is to preserve the canopy so that we have,
So once the tree is dead, should we take them down and remove them if we can? Just because it's, especially if we're gonna build a trail down that way where that white oak grove is. Actually,
we can ask him like what, if we can use that in another area or if that should just be completely removed, like, for example, some of these natives.
maybe down so they don't fall on the trail.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think to answer maybe part of your question there, my understanding is they're only contagious during a certain time of their lifespan, essentially. So while they're dying, they create a fungus thing that can be physically commuted from an injury to one tree to an injury to another. So if this blighted, injured tree were to have the wild animal spread that physically into a non-affected but injured tree, it would also take injury. It would become infected at that point. But it does this through the roots as well. But this only happens during a specific part of the death cycle of the tree.
Yeah.
And so it's not that like we have to worry about removing every piece of.
I mean, like the trees that are dead, like you see them, like you can tell that it's a dead tree. Should we cut them down so that?
The one thing we don't wanna do is remove that, like take them somewhere else, right? Just in case, cause that'll spread. I understand what you're saying.
Just from a safety perspective.
Yeah.
You don't have a bunch of dead trees.
Yeah, so that's a twofold question. I think we need to talk to the urban forester to see, talk to them about the life cycle. Cause there is benefit to leaving down trees in a forest. So I think it depends on where it is and like where it could potentially fall. But if it's like kind of off and doesn't have a trail next to it, as long as that's not gonna cause further issues as far as like the beetle. I think it would be most beneficial to leave it. There's lots of wildlife use. That,
and even
I
if
think it just
it,
depends.
yeah, and if it does fall, I mean, no one should be in the woods during a storm, but if it does fall and we cut that section out of the trail and leave the rest on the sides, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
To add one detail to this too, so a standing dead tree poses a different kind of liability than like what we call it, like a skull crusher, I think is what you trail communities on. You know, that thing that's hanging right above the trail, that's just waiting to fall right on you. And what I've seen done in other places, which I would imagine would be one of the recommendations we get from them, is that we use our borough services to parse back standing trees so that they're less likely to become windblown, but that they stay standing to the best of our ability for as long as possible, because that's an important, especially for birds and other wildlife.
Affiliated woodpeckers.
Yeah.
They love
yeah, we need those dead trees in there or dying trees
standing
for
trees,
habitats.
So there is such a thing as doing too much.
Yeah. And that's what that report would tell us is we're gonna get our biggest bang for our buck here, you know, is what can we address? What can we really make a difference on?
And they'll do an inventory too. So if you're concerned about like how many oaks, et cetera, they'll tell us exactly what that inventory is.
Really want that information. Okay, so to end off our presentation, we're gonna talk a little bit about workshops and events that we're looking at. These fall more into the educational piece of Birdtown. So this is a proposed schedule. It is not set in stone. But just so you have an idea of some of the things we're looking at, as far as educating the community, if there is a topic that you want to know more about, please let us know so we can add it to the schedule. And these would be things that we would do, you know, providing free education and workshops and answering questions and that sort of thing. Yes.
I just wanted to again offer the library as like a conduit to some of these workshops. Anything informational might be best under the purview of like the borough, like something like this. But if it's where you need supplies, you need people to register, you need help advertising, volunteer staffing, the library's a good resource, especially like the educational ones or like workshops.
Yes, thank you.
I think community disseminating information is probably best with the borough, you know, with general, like up here, but the libraries have to give part of anything else.
And we were complimented, our library was complimented when we were going through and talking to all of these people, and they were saying, your library is a great resource for all this, so we got kudos for that.
It's like a natural partnership with.
Yes, and that's the goal, right, is to all work together, so we're not duplicating efforts, we're not, you know, getting it all out there. So, what we've done is just taken what we've talked about and put it into a spreadsheet, just so we haven't decided to spend any money at this point, but we do have $2,000 mini grants, one definite and one potential. We also have some places that have offered to donate to Green Tree for these efforts, which is great. So those are like private donations as well as like clubs and things. And then we can talk, you know, at a later date also about like where do we want to put our borough resources and that sort of thing. And this list is obviously can be updated and changed as we go along. We were also told there might be a bridge somewhere in the borough.
We're looking at.
Okay.
Spare bridge.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen our bridge?
Someone donated it. We want to make sure if we can use it. Anyone have any questions about this piece?
Does that say pizza garden?
Yes. So
Pizza garden.
Dana, I have to give you credit for that. It's a garden, a children's, or just a garden where you put like tomato plants, like basil plants, and you can pick everything and go home and make yourself a pizza. It's just fun. So those are the kind of things we'd really like to get going in the borough where people can interact. A mozzarella plant, that sounds amazing. Pineapple. But in this children's area, all those interactive things when people can go and like really use nature to their benefit and interact with it, smell the plants and eat them, things like that. These are some websites that are useful. Again, we'll put them on the borough website. Your team here, there's a spot. Like I said, it could be you. Let us know. And then these are some of the people that we talked about outside of Green Tree. So thank you all for your time. I'm going to open up to public comment.
I cannot believe how much work your community, especially knowing that the health have accomplished in such a short period of time. So when did you propose for a town at a council meeting? When was that, the fall?
I don't know what month it is right now.
It was like, and it's like.
It's like, she was telling me it's just gained momentum. I don't think you can stop it from wanting to, because people are so engaged in this whole process. I mean, look at the turnout for.
I credit everyone in this room, everyone who has, I mean, it's been fun because the ball's just rolled and everyone has rolled with it.
Well, you have been very instrumental in that, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Has anybody thought anything about security? Because in my mind, this is great for our community, but now we want to connect Carnegie. And if you go down the end of Glencoe, that's not the greatest area in Carnegie. And I live on Orla Drive, and things have happened on Orla Drive coming up from Glencoe.
Absolutely. That is definitely at the forefront. Yeah.
Strangers coming to our community, and I don't know, it's a concern to
Mhm.
me.
Sure, it's a
Very valid.
I
Yeah.
also wear another hat as the borough's appointed emergency management coordinator, and so one of my thoughts in all of this is, you know, what the impact is on you know the community's sustainability, and that by that I mean, how do we respond to all kinds of emergency circumstances, both big and
I don't
small.
want an emergency circumstance.
Yeah, I certainly don't want one either, but I think one of the things that these infrastructure plans offer to us is multiple ways to solve problems. I mean, if you're talking about like the migration of crime from one place to another, just as one example, for instance, there's not many ways that you can effectively restrict that, and there's
No, but you can not invite it.
that's right, yeah, but also what having a more complete trail network can do is make it so there's more utilization of these trailways, so that there's more oversight essentially, instead of having to have like a surveillance system that would, you know, keep an eye on a particular part of the borough. You've got people who just are regularly on those trails, and can make sure that they're safe for joggers. And like my partner is a runner as well, and doesn't feel comfortable on some of our trails here in Green Tree because of the way that they are. So,
Well, I mean, I've been in my backyard and people have come into my yard.
Mhm.
And I'm like, where are you going? Oh, I thought I was in the nature center. No, you didn't. You know,
mhm.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very fair concern. I think my 2 cents is that the more effort we put into having clearly delineated spaces, the less likelihood you have of someone convincingly straying from those. And so like in the nature area right now, as an example of this, there's a lot of deer trails. And we want to actively discourage some of those deer trails because they live right in people's backyards, right? And so you could foreseeably see somebody, myself, for instance, getting a little lost in the nature center and wandering a little too close to somebody's home and be like, oh my goodness, that's not the trail I thought it was. But in a well-managed trail system, it's very clear. You've got signage that says this is a road trail. Do not go off this way. You've got.
You're not answering my question.
Well, I would love to answer your question. Maybe I'm not understanding.
But I also think,
Well, my question is that we're opening this up to outside of Green Tree and inviting the outside of Green Tree into our community, into the woods that houses back up to, and it's not a safe thing. I've always been concerned with Glencoe. It goes right down to Carnegie. I've lived here my whole life. You know.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we are not unique in Green Tree to have that concern and with the trail system and the public property and things like that. And so part of the beauty of having access to all of these other communities is to say, how do you keep things safe? How do you and when we talk about this greenway interacting with other communities, you're not going to like wake up tomorrow and like Carnegie is going to be marching in. This is something that would be like a 10-year plan project with consideration.
I'm still think I'll have some life in me.
I hope so.
Let's hope.
But there's
Let's hope I still wake up every morning 10 years from now.
But there's opportunities for these discussions to be had, because when you also use trail systems and things like that, you're inviting people to come to our businesses, to our restaurants.
Okay,
Or-
I'm just letting you know
Yeah.
what I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And your answers to me don't make me feel any
Well, except that we need to put more thought
more,
into that.
I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
And what I think they're trying to say though is, in their defense, is say you have an isolated area behind your house right now. And there's a bad actor setting up in. Well, he's isolated, he has, no one's watching him, he's setting up behind your house.
Well,
Now, when they have the trails, there's gonna be 100 people walking behind your house.
Maybe not.
They're, I'm saying, what they're trying to say is.
well, maybe.
What they're trying to say is.
I thought.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna worry about a hundred.
Yeah, but the 100 will find that bad actor
Okay.
hiding.
All right, that's the answer. That's
I'm gonna-
well, I'm just making my.
I'm going to give you a quick example. I go to Hill Park all the time with my kids, all the time. It's like one of the, I feel like, safest places. I went there last year, showed up, it was just me and my kids. There was someone at Hill Park, because no one else was there, doing something that looked pretty nefarious. Like I was a little uncomfortable with what was happening.
Right.
They didn't seem like they were there to swing on the swings. But when I showed up with my kids and we walked in, that person left. Because
Well,
they
I'll
weren't
give you an
alone.
example. I went to the dog park with my dog and somebody was there with a pit bull that didn't belong and wouldn't leave until I called the police.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, we can give a million examples.
Yeah.
All I'm doing is making my concern now.
I think it's a very valid.
Yeah, it's very valid.
I think it's a legitimate concern too, and I think it's part of the research, like you can look at other communities that
Mhm.
integrated their trails with other communities and see if there's been an increase in crime rates. Like,
Right.
and if so, that's a data point, and that's something that we should consider
Right.
And it's not even,
before we connect.
I'm sure it's not even just that you're worried about.
Yeah, and that's what I'm.
Oh, I mean, you know, this is one of the reasons it's nice to live in Green Trees, because it's small, it's us. You know, we don't invite other people into our swimming pool, it's not open. You know, we could make money on that swimming pool, we don't need it. You know, we'll pay our taxes and keep our pool private. You know, there's a lot of value to that.
Everybody's welcome to the pool, everybody's welcome, they have to pay. They're buying non-resident pool pass.
It will.
But then you can't just walk in without a green tree.
Right, with a
Yeah.
person, yeah.
That's my
Or you can
point.
buy a pass, right, you can buy a non-resident pass for
Well, that stops it.
$50.
That's
Yeah.
my point.
Right. Yeah, I think it's something that the committee
Yeah.
should probably take a look
You know,
at.
our dog
See.
park is law.
Yeah.
You have to go through, you know, Bow Wow and get your dog certified and everything. That's a good thing. I mean, a real good thing.
There are some guardrails we can look at for this kind of thing, like you know, at the very least, I'm thinking, you know, like signage closed after dark. And I mean, I'm just thinking hypothetically here, we obviously need to
Well, I
talk.
just wanted to, you know,
Yeah.
make
Like-
my concern. known.
Absolutely, yeah,
We don't have to
like
talk about
emergency
it for an
button.
hour.
If you're like deep on the trail, you know, you can hit a button and it alerts the police. These are just hypotheticals,
Yeah.
but we hear you, and
Yeah.
yeah, there are definitely some things that we can.
Yep.
Kind of look into. For that, so.
Any other comments, questions, suggestions, ideas, concerns? Thank you for voicing that.
In my comments, have to make priority. You know, fixing the infrastructure and widening the trails. I've been on those trails numerous times. Been on the Whiskey, when I wore younger men's clothes, used to run down the nose, road and back on some training, but anyhow, we just have to fix the infrastructure, widen the
Yep.
trails. That invasive species, I understand what you're saying, maybe, but that seems mission impossible to make. I mean, I work on my backyard hill and, I've been working on that.
So it's,
15 years.
Yeah.
I hear that, and it's not there, it's a science. It's not a waste of resources, because if we don't, we're gonna lose what we have.
What do
So
you do about the invasive maple trees?
Like Japanese maples or?
No, just regular maple.
So when you-
That's an invasive.
when
tree.
when they would come in and look at like our invasives, they're gonna see there's a whole, I mean, this is somebody's career, right? And it's a whole area of invasive management. So for us giving you like what we will do is not going to do service. That's why we're asking for the report to show you exactly what would need done and then how we would do it. So for example, there are some things that you can pull out of the ground, and if you put them down, they'll just reroot right there. There's like a zombie plant.
I had to do it.
Yeah, they're like in bittersweet and things like that. Like we pulled a bittersweet out and saved a spice bush, and I went back 2 weeks later, and it was like alive. How did you do that? But there's a list here from the DCNR that
While she's pulling this list too, I'll mention, just to make sure we're all on the same page about this, that like there are important distinctions between an invasive species and a non-native species and a native species. And there are native species that might consider it invasive, and there are others that are non-native species that we would not consider invasive, right? So a lot of this is, how do we encourage the plants that we want to encourage? Because this is what, you know, indigenous people in this area did before we were here, before settlers were here. This is what, you know, the agricultural minded folks who lived here before us also did. was, encourage the land to produce the things that they wanted to produce. And so we're doing the same thing. Focus here is on encouraging the plants that are going to do the most for wildlife and the most for the welfare of the people here.
So we have, like, I would not go into the municipal garden and pull anything that's not native. Like, that would just not be smart. There's a list that the DCNR gives out of the red invasives. These are things that are causing severe destruction of our forested areas and causing just havoc. These are the things we would focus on first, and the things that are pulling down our trees onto people's homes. We don't want you to live up against a nature center and there's a storm and there's a vine that could be cut and we're not cutting it and it's coming down into your yard. So it's prioritizing these things. Like, I have some of these in my yard and I just look away. They're not, and they create habitat. Like, some of the invasives will create habitat. It's okay to leave them because things live in them, and if that's okay. But then you have these things that are just gonna destroy and take over, and those are the things we want to prioritize so that we can give other things a chance to thrive. Does that make more sense? Okay.
This last one, you get the Boy Scouts and, well, you've been naming rights and Mangini Bridge, it's a Boy Scout project, now he lives not infamy.
Yeah.
He lives, and anyhow, I think it was great, the Mangini Bridge originated as a Boy Scout project.
And
I know
we are a big trail family. My kids love trails, and I don't want to have to drive to Mount Lebanon or South Park to take my kids on a trail. I love that we cleared the orange trail and I can just take my kids on that orange trail real quick and they got their trail in. It's more accessible. We fix the stairs so that I don't have to leave my community to use a green space in that way. And that's kind of the goal, right? Is so community members can use those spaces and not have to go to other communities and stop for lunch as well.
Yeah. And if we don't tackle those high priority invasives, like you said, it can affect what's already there and the beauty of the nature center as is, and it can just become just a mess.
I just have one other suggestion on the seed program is to make people aware if there happens to be something that's good to plant that the deer will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I have that in here too.
Yeah.
We had talked about, having a lot of educational videos out too. And, you can talk about like what natives work best in wet conditions, slopes, in this area, there's a lot of different like topography and conditions people are dealing with, so.
Exhibit Z. There's so many of these, but these are given out by Audubon. And it also has, so example, native plants that grow quickly for sunny areas or deer resistant plants, things like that. And these are online. Like, I can link these and you can go and you can look, okay, I have
that at the library.
Yeah.
Too, for,
Absolutely. We're gonna have a whole shelf and it can, given out for that space, it needs to be just cleared it out, with other materials there. So we can expand that.
Make it easy on people,
Yeah.
because if you have to go online and then go to the library, it's like.
I already started my binder.
Yeah, and part of this is conversational too, like not all of the plants on that list are gonna work really well in Green Tree, but some of them will work really well in Green Tree. And so having an opportunity, a place where people can have that conversation, feel free to write right into the book. Of course, I hope I'm not asking to deface library property. But I would love to see that comment. I've looked at those charts before and been like, oh, I have no idea what I read. But
Great. I like that interactive element. And I talked about that we would like to invite people to like share their success stories, maybe on the Birdtown website or Facebook, and to really build that momentum so people get excited about things in their own yard. I do like the idea of doing that.
And deer, there are some plants that like are deer proof. And so really fun.
There's no such.
I know, I said that and then I was like, that's not true. They're very unlikely to eat them. I'm not sick. I don't put anything. I actually do have a plant that is poisonous to deer in my yard. So there are plants that you can plant and likely, I'm not.
Hasn't kept them away though.
Well, it's, the deer issue is gonna be like a multi-step process. If you'll notice that we take our dog outside when we have deer in the back.
Oh.
So to try to deter them from coming closer to our garden. So it's a process, and that's the deer, well, they run from us. The deer, well, your dog wouldn't. But the deer workshop will help with that. But yeah, educating everyone on like, maybe plant this and it might work more than this, you know? So we're not doing buffets, we're doing more like tapas.
And I think what's the beauty about the native seed library is that the resources will be free and people can take from it. So it's trial and error. If something doesn't work, they can come back and grab something else that might be more suitable to their habitat.
And this is really a fantastic example of a citizen science project that we would be encouraging in this kind of setting, which is like people experimenting and reporting on what is working, what's not working in terms of their own deer management offerings.
Cause I drove by a house today in Green Tree that has cone flowers in the front yard, and I like immediately, it looks so pretty, and I was like, those are natives, and the deer don't eat that.
The deer even remind you.
Yeah.
Me too. And the groundhogs.
Yeah, and the rabbits, yeah.
I think it's all the ground.
Well,
We one of those.
They're just making the deer look.
Yeah.
When I go out with a sprinkler that's on a motion detector,
Yes.
so at night, I put that on.
Yes.
I finally have flowers.
Yes.
That's a clever idea.
Yeah.
See, that's. a
Yep.
great example.
And those are all the things, yeah, exactly. Those are the things that there's so many facets to controlling that problem.
Of course, my dog comes in wet sometimes.
Well, we won't be offering pastas. Is there?
Yes, yeah. Anybody else? Thank you all for being here and
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work that's done.
Whiskey rum is done.
Yeah.